She left the man who treated her perfectly for the man who barely tried. You have seen this. You may have lived it. The good man, reliable, honest, present, patient, watches from a distance while the woman he wanted chooses someone who offers her none of those things. And then the good man does what good men always do. He tells himself she will regret it. He tells himself she made a mistake. He tells himself that eventually she will understand his value. She does not come back. And the good man never understands why, because nobody ever told him the truth. Not his mother, not his friends, not the culture that raised him to believe that kindness is the currency of attraction. Machiavelli spent his life studying what humans actually respond to versus what they claim to respond to. And the gap between those two things, that gap is where every nice guy's confusion lives. He wrote that men deceive themselves about their own motives. What applies to men in politics applies to women in attraction. What people say they want and what they actually respond to are almost never the same thing. This is not an attack on women. It is an observation about human psychology, about power, about the mechanics of desire that operate beneath conscious awareness and produce outcomes that confuse everyone who refuses to look at them honestly. What you're about to hear will make some people deeply uncomfortable. It should, because comfortable ideas have kept men confused, rejected, and powerless for long enough. Let us begin. Here is the lie every nice guy was told. Be kind, be consistent, be available, show her you care, treat her with respect, be the man she deserves, and she will choose you. It sounds correct, it feels moral, and it fails almost every single time. Not because kindness is wrong, but because kindness without power is not attractive. It is comfortable, and comfort is not desire. Comfort is what you feel toward furniture. Familiar, reliable, easy to take for granted. The bad boy was never more talented. He was never kinder, smarter, or more deserving. He had one thing the nice guy did not. He was not trying to be chosen. He had already decided his own value and was completely indifferent to whether she agreed. That indifference, that's not cruelty, that is power. And power is the only currency that desire actually responds to. Machiavelli never wrote about attraction directly, but he wrote about something that explains it completely. He observed that people do not follow those who need them. They follow those who do not. The moment a man's value becomes conditional on a woman's approval, he has surrendered the only thing that made him interesting. Nice guys do not finish last because they are nice. They finish last because they are needy. And neediness, regardless of how it is dressed, is the single most repellent force in human attraction. This is the code that nobody explains, and once you see it, everything makes sense. Rule 1. She does not respond to your value. She responds to how you carry it. The nice guy believes if he demonstrates enough value, she will choose him. He works harder. He becomes more helpful. He makes himself more available. He builds the case for why he deserves her attention the way a lawyer builds a case for a courtroom. And he cannot understand why the verdict never goes his way. The bad boy never builds a case. He does not present evidence. He does not argue for his own value. He assumes it completely, without audition, without apology. Machiavelli wrote that the man who must explain his authority has already lost it. Authority, like attraction, is felt before it is understood. It does not arrive through argument. It arrives through presence. Women do not decide attraction consciously. It happens in the body before the brain can intervene, and what triggers it is not a checklist of qualities. It is the feeling of being in the presence of a man who has decided he is enough and is not asking for confirmation. I know a man who spent 3 years being the perfect friend to a woman he wanted. He was there for every crisis, every bad day, every moment she needed support. He was patient, consistent, and completely invisible as a romantic option. Then a man she had known for 3 weeks, someone who called her out when she was wrong, who cancelled plans without explanation, who made her work for his attention. That man became her boyfriend. The patient man could not process it. He had done everything right, but he had done everything wrong because he had been performing value instead of embodying it. Stop presenting your case. Start assuming your verdict. One man argued for his worth and remained unconvincing. One man assumed his worth and became irresistible. Evidence is for courtrooms. Attraction is not a courtroom. Rule 2. Availability is the destroyer of desire. The nice guy makes himself completely available. He responds immediately. He rearranges his schedule. He makes her feel like the center of his universe, and she loses interest within weeks. Not because she is cruel, because desire requires distance. It requires the possibility of loss. It requires uncertainty. And a man who is always available has eliminated all three. Machiavelli understood scarcity as a principle of power long before economists named it. He wrote that what is rare is valued and what is abundant is taken for granted. This is not complicated. It is mechanics. The same mechanics that govern markets govern desire. When you are always available, you are abundant, and abundance destroys perceived value faster than almost anything else. The man who responds within seconds becomes predictable. The man who responds in his own time becomes interesting. This is not game playing. It is the honest management of a psychological reality that operates whether you acknowledge it or not. The bad boy is not strategically absent because he read a book about it. He is absent because he genuinely has a life that does not center around her. He has things that matter to him more than her immediate approval. And that genuine absence, that real indifference to whether she notices his unavailability, that is what creates the hunger she cannot explain. You cannot fake this. The man who manufactures absence while secretly watching his phone has not solved the problem. He has decorated it. The actual solution is to build a life so full of genuine purpose that your availability becomes naturally limited. Become the man whose time is genuinely scarce, not because you are playing a game, because you are building something real. One man made himself always available and became furniture. One man made himself genuinely scarce and became the thing she could not stop thinking about. Desire lives in the gap between wanting and having. Rule 3. He does not need her approval, and that is why he has it. This is the central paradox that destroys nice guys. The more desperately a man seeks a woman's approval, the more certainly he loses it. And the more genuinely indifferent he is to her approval, the more powerfully he commands it. It is not logical. It is not fair. It is the precise mechanics of how attraction operates at the psychological level that lies beneath logic and fairness entirely. Machiavelli wrote that men respect the prince who governs them, not the one who seeks to please them. Governance implies standards. Pleasing implies need. And need, as Machiavelli observed across every court he studied, destroys respect before it destroys anything else. Women are not attracted to need. They are attracted to the absence of need. To the man who, when she pulls back, does not chase. When she tests, does not collapse. When she withdraws approval, does not recalibrate his behavior to recover it. That man, the one who remains completely himself regardless of her response, that man becomes the one she cannot figure out. And what she cannot figure out, she cannot stop thinking about. The bad boy does not adjust himself based on her reaction. He has a self that exists independently of her perception of it. That independent self is not a pose. It is the product of a man who has built his identity on something that does not require female validation to stand. Build your identity on your mission, your standards, your vision for your own life. Make that foundation so solid that her approval becomes genuinely irrelevant to how you feel about yourself. Then watch what happens. One man shaped himself around what she wanted and became unrecognizable to her. One man remained completely himself, regardless of what she wanted, and became unforgettable. The man who needs nothing from her is the only man she wants to give everything to. Rule 4. Standards are attraction. Boundaries are power. The nice guy has no standards for how he is treated. He accepts whatever she offers because he is grateful for any level of access. He tolerates disrespect, inconsistency, and emotional chaos because he believes endurance is a form of love. She does not experience his endurance as love. She experiences it as confirmation that he has no self-respect. And a man who does not respect himself is a man she cannot respect either. Machiavelli wrote that the prince who tolerates insult invites more of it, not because people are malicious by nature, but because humans will always push against a boundary until they find one. If they never find one, they stop believing the man has any. Standards are not cruelty. They are the architecture of self-respect, and self-respect is the foundation that attraction is built on. The bad boy has standards, not always articulated, not always conscious, but real. There are things he will not accept, behaviors he does not tolerate, lines he does not allow to be crossed. And when those lines are approached, he does not argue, he does not explain, he does not beg. He simply withdraws. That withdrawal is not punishment. It is the natural response of a man who values his own time and energy enough to protect them. And it communicates more clearly than any lecture about respect ever could. A woman cannot respect a man she can walk over, not because she does not want to, because it is psychologically impossible. Respect requires resistance, and a man with no resistance offers her nothing to push against, nothing to test, nothing to discover. Set your standards, enforce them quietly. Let your withdrawal speak louder than your words ever could. One man accepted everything and was valued accordingly. One man accepted only what met his standard and became the standard. Tolerance without limit is not kindness. It is the surrender of your own worth. Rule 5. Mystery is the engine of obsession. The nice guy tells her everything: his feelings, his plans, his fears, his intentions. He is completely transparent because he believes honesty builds connection. He is right about honesty. He is wrong about timing. And the difference between these two things costs him everything. Machiavelli wrote that the man who reveals himself completely has surrendered his greatest strategic asset. In politics, in power, in attraction, the unknown is more compelling than the known, because the known can be evaluated, categorized, and filed away. The unknown must be continuously investigated. The bad boy is a puzzle she cannot solve, not because he is deliberately withholding, but because he is genuinely complex, genuinely private, genuinely occupied with a world that does not revolve around her. She gets pieces of him, but never the complete picture, and the incomplete picture is the one she cannot stop trying to finish. Full transparency in the early stages of attraction is not intimacy. It is overexposure. It floods the space where curiosity should live with information she did not yet have the appetite to process. Reveal yourself in layers. Let her discover you over time, rather than receiving the complete inventory in the first conversation. Not because you are hiding something, because what is slowly revealed is more compelling than what is immediately delivered. The man who keeps something in reserve always has something worth returning to. I watched a man tell a woman he was interested in everything about himself within the first week. His ambitions, his insecurities, his past relationships, his plans for the future. He thought he was building intimacy. She felt the conversation was already over. There was nothing left to discover. Stay interesting by staying incomplete. One man showed everything and was immediately understood. One man revealed slowly and remained endlessly interesting. You cannot be curious about a book you have already finished. Rule 6. He leads. She decides whether to follow. The nice guy asks permission. He asks what she wants to do, where she wants to go, what she prefers. He presents options and waits for her direction because he believes this is respectful. She experiences it as a man who cannot lead. And a man who cannot lead is a man she cannot follow. This is not about dominance, it is about direction. Women are not attracted to control. They are attracted to a man who knows where he is going and moves toward it with enough certainty that following him feels like the most natural thing in the world. Machiavelli wrote that men follow the prince who has a clear vision more readily than the prince who consults them on the vision. Leadership is not a conversation. It is a direction. People do not follow debates. They follow decisions. The bad boy decides. He makes plans without asking for approval. He moves through the world with a direction that is clearly his own and invites her to join it, not as a demand, but as an assumption. He assumes she will want to be part of what he is building, and that assumption is more attractive than any request for her input. This does not mean her preferences do not matter. It means his direction comes first, and her preferences are considered within that direction, not before it is established. A man without direction is a man asking her to provide it, and a woman who must provide a man's direction will lose respect for him by the time she finishes the job. Know where you are going. Move toward it. Invite her along. One man asked where she wanted to go and was seen as lost. One man knew where he was going and let her decide whether to join him. Leadership is not permission. It is direction. Everything so far has been about the external mechanics, the behaviors, the patterns, the principles that explain why the bad boy wins in arenas where the nice guy cannot understand his own defeat. But the rules that follow go deeper, into the psychological architecture that separates the man who understands these principles from the man who has embodied them, into the territory that most men refuse to enter because it requires dismantling beliefs that feel like identity. This is where the uncomfortable truth gets truly ruthless, and where the men who are ready to change stop nodding and start transforming. Rule 7. Emotional control is the ultimate display of strength. The nice guy wears his emotions on the surface. When she pulls back, he expresses hurt. When she is inconsistent, he expresses confusion. When she tests him, he expresses anxiety. He believes this emotional transparency is vulnerability. He believes vulnerability builds connection. In the early stages of attraction, it builds nothing but doubt. Machiavelli wrote that the prince who displays weakness in negotiation has already lost the negotiation. Attraction in its early stages is negotiation. Two people are assessing each other's value, their stability, their strength. And a man who leaks anxiety at the first sign of uncertainty is signaling that he cannot be relied upon when real pressure arrives. This is not about being cold, it is about being contained. The man who can feel something deeply and not display it until the moment and relationship are appropriate for that display. That man communicates a level of self-possession that is profoundly compelling. The bad boy does not chase when she pulls back. He does not text 3 times when she does not respond. He does not adjust his emotional temperature based on her fluctuations. He remains steady. And that steadiness, that unshakable internal consistency reads as strength at a level that bypasses her conscious reasoning entirely. Build the wall between what you feel and what you display, not to deceive, to demonstrate that your emotional state is governed by your own standards and not by her behavior. That governance is what she is looking for, because a man who cannot govern himself cannot protect anything else. One man displayed every emotion as it arrived and was experienced as unstable. One man felt deeply and revealed deliberately and was experienced as powerful. Strength is not the absence of feeling, it is the mastery of its expression. Rule 8. He has a mission she cannot replace. The nice guy makes her his mission. His day revolves around her. His mood is determined by her last message. His plans are built around her availability. His sense of progress is measured by how well things are going with her. And she feels the weight of being someone's entire world. It is not romantic. It is suffocating. Machiavelli wrote that the prince who has no mission of his own will always be captured by someone else's. The man without a mission is not free. He is available, and available men become servants to whatever priority fills the vacuum of their purposelessness. The bad boy has a mission, real or implied, conscious or instinctive. There is something he is building that exists independent of her. Something that would continue if she disappeared. Something that does not require her presence to have meaning. That mission is not a competitor for her attention. It is what makes his attention worth competing for. A woman does not want to be a man's mission. She wants to be chosen by a man who has one. Because a man with a mission has demonstrated something she cannot manufacture for him. He has demonstrated that his value is self-generated, that it does not depend on her, and what does not depend on her cannot be taken away by her. Build something real, something that exists beyond her, something that you would be doing regardless of whether she was watching. Then let her watch. One man made her his purpose and had nothing left when she left. One man had a purpose she could not replace and became the man she could not leave. The most attractive thing a man can have is somewhere he is going without her. Rule 9. He walks away, and that changes everything. The nice guy cannot walk away. He has invested too much, hoped for too long, built too much of his self-worth around the outcome of this particular pursuit. Walking away feels like failure. So he stays. He continues to be available, to be patient, to be kind. He waits for her to notice, and she does not notice, because she has no reason to. Machiavelli wrote that the man who cannot withdraw has no leverage, and the man with no leverage will always be offered the worst possible terms because the other party knows he will accept them. The willingness to walk away is not a tactic. It is not a manipulation designed to make her chase. It is the honest expression of a man who values himself enough to decline arrangements that do not serve him. And it is the single most powerful thing a man can do in any dynamic where his value is being underestimated. When a woman sees a man genuinely willing to walk away, something shifts in her psychology that cannot be manufactured by any other means. She is suddenly confronted with the reality of his absence in a way that all his presence could never produce. And that confrontation forces a re-evaluation that she was never going to perform as long as he remained reliably available. I know a man who pursued a woman for 8 months with everything he had: consistency, patience, generosity. She was interested but not committed. One day, without drama or explanation, he stopped. He redirected his energy entirely. 3 weeks later, she reached out. Not because he had played a game, because his absence was the first honest signal she had received about his actual value. Be willing to walk away from pursuits that do not serve you, from dynamics that do not respect you, from situations where your value is being chronically underestimated. The man who will not leave will never be truly chosen. He will only be tolerated. One man stayed too long out of hope and was taken for granted indefinitely. One man left when his value was not recognized and was suddenly recognized completely. The exit is sometimes the most powerful entrance you will ever make. Rule 10. Become the man. She cannot categorize. Nice guys are easy to categorize. They go in the friend box quickly and completely. And once inside that box, no amount of effort, patience, or demonstration of value gets them out. Because categorization is a closure. It is the end of curiosity. And without curiosity, attraction cannot live. The bad boy resists categorization. He is kind sometimes and cold others. He is generous in unexpected moments and withholding in expected ones. He is interested and then indifferent. He is present and then absent. He is not performing inconsistency. He is simply too complex, too self-directed, too genuinely occupied with his own interior world to be predictable. And what cannot be predicted cannot be filed away. What cannot be filed away must be continuously investigated, and continuous investigation is attraction in its operational form. Machiavelli wrote that the prince who becomes too well understood becomes too easily managed. Mystery is not vanity, it is protection. It is the maintenance of a space around yourself that others must enter on your terms rather than their own. Develop dimensions, have interests she does not expect, hold opinions she cannot anticipate, pursue things that have nothing to do with her, be generous in ways that surprise her and firm in ways that confuse her. Not because you are performing complexity, but because a genuinely full man, a man with a real interior life, real passions, real standards, real direction, that man is naturally impossible to categorize. Become full. The uncategorizable man is the unforgettable one. One man was immediately understood and immediately placed in the friend zone. One man remained a puzzle she could not solve and became the one she could not stop thinking about. Be the question she never finishes answering. 5 years from now, one of 2 men exists. The first man is still confused, still performing kindness and waiting for it to be rewarded with desire. Still watching women he wanted choose men he cannot understand. Still telling himself that the right woman will eventually see his value. Still waiting to be chosen by someone who is too busy being drawn toward the man who is not waiting at all. He is a good man. That is not the problem. He was always a good man. But goodness without power is not attractive. And he never learned the difference between being good and being compelling. The second man is different, not because he became cruel, not because he abandoned his values, but because he stopped outsourcing his worth to her approval. He built something real. He developed standards and enforced them. He became genuinely indifferent to the outcomes he used to chase desperately. He made himself scarce because his life became genuinely full. And in doing so, he became the thing the first man could never manufacture. He became magnetic, not because of what he did, because of who he became. The man who knows his value and does not need to prove it. The man who has somewhere to go and invites her along without needing her to come. The man who will walk away when his worth is not recognized and will not look back when he does. That man does not struggle with attraction. He curates it. The gap between these two men is not looks, it is not money, it is not luck. It is the decision to stop performing value and start embodying it. To stop seeking approval and start assuming it. To stop being available and start being necessary. That decision is available to you right now. Not tomorrow. Not when you feel ready. Right now. You made it through all 10 rules because some part of you already knew this truth. You already felt the gap between what you were told attraction works on and what you have actually watched it respond to. You just needed someone to name it without apology. Now name it yourself. Drop in the comments right now. I choose power over approval. Say it like you mean it. Because the man who means it has already begun the transformation from the man who is chosen last to the man who is chosen completely. And do not stop here. The next video goes deeper into the specific Machiavellian principles for building the kind of presence that commands respect before you speak a single word. Where we go beyond attraction and into the full architecture of power that makes every area of your life respond differently to who you are becoming. The bad boy was never the point. The point is the man beneath the pattern. Become him.